scheduled Board of Public Works meeting for July 16th, 2024. It's 5:30 p.m. here in Council Chambers at 401 North Morton in Bloomington. There's also a Zoom link as part of the packet for anyone that needed to attend on Zoom. I don't see any members of the public on Zoom at this point in time, so we will, if we do have members come on, we'll let them know how to comment and such. Otherwise, I will turn it over to Elizabeth Carone, who's filling in for Board President Kyla Cox-Deckard, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Adam. I will call to order tonight's meeting of the Board of Public Works, July 16th, 2024, and we will start with messages from board members. Are there any messages from the board? All right, moving along, we will go to appeals and tackle appeal notice of violation 62024-05-2495, 706 West 15th Street.
Hello, Anadina Casamanian on behalf of the city. This appeal regards, as you stated, 706 West 15th Street, Bloomington, Indiana, 47404. The Bloomington Municipal Code 6.06050 makes it unlawful. Sorry, just give me, I lost my page. Makes it unlawful for the owner of any lot or tract of ground within the city to allow it to become overgrown with weeds, grass, or noxious plants beyond the height of 8 inches, or to such extent that the growth is detrimental to the public health and constitutes a nuisance. On May 2nd, 2024, a warning was posted on the door of Mr. Fadhir Farhan, appellant, describing the violation of Bloomington Municipal Code as overgrowth. This warning was issued under ticket number 62024052495. And then on May 16th, 2024, the City of Bloomington Neighborhood and Compliance Officer Rebecca Davis did personally observe overgrown weeds, grass, or noxious plants located at the address of 706 West 15th, Bloomington, Indiana. She took photos under ticket number 62024052648, and at that point issued a notice of violation. Officer Davis took photographs of the condition of the property, which depict the existence of said grass overgrowth above 8 inches. Mr. Farhan is the owner of the property, located at 706 West 15th Street, Bloomington, Indiana, and shall be considered the responsible party under 6.06070A. On May 24th, 2024, Mr. Farhan, the owner of the property, appealed the notice of violation. We believe there's substantial evidence that support a finding that the appeal should be denied, as compliance did not occur. Compliance was requested to be made immediately. Mr. Farhan did not comply with the order of mowing in terms of mowing
Recording in progress.
The entire property. The entire property was not mowed. Portions were mowed. There are photos that were taken by Officer Davis that you can see in the packet. Therefore, we recommend that the appeal be denied.
All right, is the property owner here?
No, we don't believe that the property owner is here today.
Okay. So let's start with questions from the board.
Hello. In the packet, the letter from the owner states that they did mow very soon after the warning came out, but you're saying that the compliance officer found that not all parts of the property are mowed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But there was evidence that there was some sort of partial compliance.
There was some sort of partial compliance, as I understand it, but majority of the property was not mowed, and the portions that needed mowing the most, which were near the curbside, were not mowed.
date on the photos that were included in the packet? You know when
I
those were
did,
taken?
there's not a date on those photos, but I did talk to Officer Davis because there is a timestamp within their iPad tool that they use to take photos. And she did take those photos on May 16th, which was a few days after the initial warning. And in those photos, you can see that the grass is above 8 inches along the property edge.
I have one question maybe for you, John, if you don't mind. The property owner's letter refers to a significant amount of rain. Have you noticed a lot of excessive growth as you've been driving through neighborhoods in the period of time noted in the letter?
Please state that again.
Sure. The homeowner's appeal mentions an excessive amount of rain and how quickly the grass has grown. Have you noticed that you are struggling more with people complying to the Bloomington Code with the amount of rain we've had, or this is pretty normal for this time of year?
It's fairly normal for this time of year. I haven't seen or noticed any uptake or uptick in the number of tickets that we've written, or any kind of anything beyond the normal that we kind of see this time of year.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. I did drive by the property yesterday prior to the work session, and the grass is not in compliance there. You can see still that there are sections where some mowing was done, some hasn't been, and so that it's sort of stepped in some different areas, and as stated, along the property edge and along the edge of the road.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Procedural question, Adam. Do we need the appellant to be present to make an action?
No.
Okay.
All right, any questions from the public, either in person or on Zoom?
We have no members of the public on Zoom.
Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that the board deny appeal of violation number 62024-05-2495 at 706 West 15th Street.
Second. So there's been a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Roach?
Aye.
Carone? Aye. Motion passes. With that, we'll move along to petitions and remonstrances. If anyone has comments or question about anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Again, if there are any questions about anything not on tonight's agenda. Seeing none, we will move to the consent agenda, which tonight includes approval of minutes for June 18th, 2024, Resolution 2024-041, the Banneker Block Party, Amendment Number 2 to Crossroad Engineers PC for preliminary engineering services for the Hopewell West project, Addendum Number 1 to 2024 Precision Concrete Inc. contract, and approval of payroll. Does anything need to be removed from tonight's consent agenda? Okay. Are there any questions on anything from the consent agenda? Any questions from the public?
I don't see any.
Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move approval of the consent agenda for July 16th, 2024.
Second, with a motion and a second, I will call the roll. Roach?
Aye.
Carone? Aye. Motion passes. With that, we'll move to new business. Number 1 is Resolution 2024-042, written approval of payments pre-approved by controller for special purchase.
Yeah, please.
Good evening, Alex Pratt with City Legal. So following the work session, we split the one resolution that we had presented then into two. And now resolution 2442 is just the blanket approval of any pre-approved control purchases for emergency conditions.
And I'll just jump in here too to just mention that as we talked about in the work session yesterday, this will help get us in compliance. This will allow us to be in compliance with both our local purchasing policies for emergency purchases, as well as for getting and making sure we have the property authority for staff to execute emergency purchases in coordination with the mayor's office and controller. So we do seek your approval and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Just briefly, do you have a page number in the packet? I'm having a little trouble finding it.
Page number in the packet.
88.
Yeah, the resolution's on page
87?
88.
No questions. These are two items, so we're going to do two motions and two presentations, or
Hang on.
just one presentation?
No, so this will be two separate motions. So this will be a motion on resolution 2024-42, and then the next one for the specifics on the storm cleanup will be resolution 43.
Okay, so any specific questions on resolution 42 from the board?
No.
No. Any questions on this resolution from the public, either in person or on Zoom?
Nothing on Zoom.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move approval of resolution 2024-042, written approval of payment pre-authorizations by controller for special purchase.
Second. Hearing a motion and a second, I will call the roll. Roach?
Aye.
Carone, aye. Motion passes. Now we'll move to Resolution 2024-043, approval of special purchase under emergency conditions for storm cleanup.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one because it's changed a little bit. So we had a special purchase contract in the packet yesterday for an initial contract approved through the special purchasing policy I stated earlier. That was for not to exceed up to $150,000. As we have moved through our first week of storm cleanup with our private contractor, we knew the 150 was just kind of a placeholder to get started. We're asking for a not to exceed in the amount of 500,000 at this point in time. We're about 35, 40, maybe almost 50% through on most of the parcels that we know have debris. They've really started in the heaviest hit areas, so it wasn't surprising that they had those higher costs in that first week and a half. So at this point, we're asking for a not to exceed of 500,000 on this, and we are going to also be working with updating the city council and others on these emergency purchases. I mentioned in the board work session yesterday, we will be seeking reimbursement for these costs through whether we meet a federal threshold for FEMA disaster declaration. We would be reimbursed at a higher percentage rate than if we're just at a state Department of Homeland Security disaster declaration. For those two, so depending on how much damage there has been statewide will determine if we get that FEMA level of reimbursement or that Department of Homeland Security. Difference is probably about 30 to 40%. So if it's a FEMA reimbursement, we would hopefully be at about a 75% reimbursement. If it's a state reimbursement, we'll be more likely 35 to 50%.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Questions from the public? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move approval of Resolution 2024-043, approval of special purchase under emergency conditions for storm cleanup.
Second, with a motion and a second, I will call the roll. Roach?
Aye.
Carone, aye. Motion passes. We will move to the street sweeping memorandum of understanding between City of Bloomington Utilities and Public Works.
All right, again, Adam Wason, Public Works Director. So as we talked about yesterday in the work session, over the last several years, the street sweeping activities that are normally housed in the street division of Public Works are transitioning over to the municipal stormwater function through the City of Bloomington Utilities. There's been some code updates over time, as well as just some changes in how how the state and our stormwater utility operates in this regard. So the City of Bloomington Utilities Department will be taking over more of the grid-based traditional sweeping pattern that the street division would have done in the past. The street division of Public Works will still respond on more emergency-based call-out type sweeping as part of our just kind of public right-of-way maintenance. So this is an MOU that outlines kind of the terms of those agreements. It includes, the things I just spoke about, as well as some transfer of some equipment from the street division over to CBU. So we are seeking your approval of this and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Are there any staffing implications to this? Would CBU be hiring any new people or shifting personnel?
So shifting, and so we'll also be coming forward with another MOU in the next couple meetings that will outline some agreement. These are two separate issues, but they both have staffing implications. So on this one in particular, the CBU did add one position for specific to sweeping. We'll be coming back in a subsequent meeting to talk about a separate issue that we're also going to look to enter into an MOU with CBU on, where the street division will actually do some of the final repairs of their so if a water main broke and their CBU would get it up to like that final 2 inches, and then the street division would come in and do the final paving and restoration, all to the thought process of our expertise is in streets, theirs is in water lines and such. So that'll come in the future. That does have some other staffing implications and some funding agreements that we're working out with the utility at this time. So, but this one for street, we just reallocated towards all the other things we do at street, and CBU is working through that as well.
Is there an update on the discussion and vote for this from last night's or yesterday's Utilities Service Board meeting?
I didn't hear anything to the contrary, so I assume it did get passed last night at the Utility Service Board.
Okay. All right. Any questions on this item from the public? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move approval of the street sweeping memorandum of understanding between City of Bloomington Utilities and Public Works.
Second. With the motion and a second, I will call the roll. Carone, aye. Sorry. Roach?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to change order number 1 for the Moores Pike Trail Southeast Park improvements.
Hi, I'm Zach Rogers with Engineering Department. This is a balancing change order number 1 for the Southeast Park Trail improvements. This was awarded to EMB December 5th of 2023 in the amount of $142,168. This change order is for an additional $1,621.54 to final out the contract at $143,789.54. This is all run over for compacted aggregate, concrete, and some riprap. Any questions?
All right, questions from the board?
No questions, but I mentioned this yesterday. The work that's been done looks fantastic. It's a great improvement.
Yeah, it turned out great.
All right, any questions from the public? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move approval of change order number 1 for Morris Pike Trail Southeast Park improvements.
Second, with a motion and a second, I will call the roll. Roach?
Aye.
Carone, aye. Motion passes. Now we'll go to sidewalk and lane closure request from Service Solutions of Bloomington on North College Avenue.
Hi, Dashel Sherman Popeliers with engineering. Service Solutions of Bloomington is requesting a 3-day lane closure during working hours and a 5-day sidewalk closure adjacent to the properties of 1200 and 1116 North College Avenue. The request is to accommodate installing sewer and water service lines to the 2 properties, removing and widening the sidewalk adjacent to the properties, and removing and reinstalling existing pavement. Service Solutions of Bloomington has supplied maintenance of traffic plans for both closures, and staff has requested that they provide notice to the property owners about this meeting and the scope of their work.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, questions from the public? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move approval of sidewalk and lane closure requests from Service Solutions of Bloomington on North College Avenue.
Second, with a motion and a second, I will call the roll. Roach?
Aye.
Carone, aye. Motion passes. Now, item 6 on the agenda is contract with E&B Paving for West 3rd Street from Franklin Road to Patterson Drive project.
Jason Kerr with engineering. This project is for updating curb ramps, repairing sidewalks, and milling and paving along West 3rd from Franklin Road to Patterson Drive. This project will have temporary lane closures during this construction. This project is partially funded through a community crossing matching grant award. Engineering requests that BPW award this project to E&B Paving, E&B Paving being the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. On Form 96, Section 3 was missing within the bidding documents that were submitted. It is a minor variance from the invitation to bid, and because the board has reserved the right to waive a minor requirement, staff recommends that the board waive that requirement and award the contract to this lowest bidder. This has been sent to us via email, so we have everything appropriated. We feel this was a minor issue and still ask for this project to be awarded to E&B Paving. The bid from E&B Paving is in the amount of $1,060,200. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions from the board?
So since the opening of the bids, you have received that missing document?
Yes, everything is in whole, yes.
And do we need to, if we were to make a motion, do we need to have specific language about that minor change? Okay, thank you.
Will the temporary lane closures during the construction come to us separately?
Usually when we do a project, we announce it currently at the awarding of the bid, and then it's kind of professed that it's involved within that project scope,
Okay.
that the MOT will be set up. So we probably will not be coming back in another time. That's why we bring it up now, basically.
Okay, but you've approved their MOT and everything
MOT,
else?
we're working on getting that from them, yes, to approve that. And if need be, we can bring that back as a staff report update if needed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this item? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move approval of the contract with E&B Paving for West 3rd Street from Franklin Road to Patterson Drive project.
Second, with a motion and a second, I will call the roll. Roach?
Aye.
Carone, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Now we'll move to staff reports and other business.
Good evening. Adam Wason, Public Works Director. We'll start with a staff report on the debris cleanup. Obviously, we've approved those contracts and such. Williams Tree Company, our main contractor, has been working very heavily through the southeast portion, or southwest to southeast portions of the city that were like the main line, some of the main lines of damage that they, the heaviest areas of damage. I think we're up to, well, actually, I won't put a number out there, but the amount of debris that's being collected is just tremendous. The pile out at north of Cascades Park is just really, it's a lot. So, as we, entered into that first phase of that project, we knew there would be subsequent contracts and additional resources needed in terms of dollars for that collection. It's going to be a heavy lift, and it's already been that way. We're going to continue through this week and next week at this point in time. We're getting a lot of calls from residents about the U report cases where they've submitted their address being closed out immediately. That's done intentionally, and we're collecting those addresses, doing a grid pattern. So we'll be continuing that work. Our street division will also have some additional crews that are going to work Friday and Saturday on overtime doing extra debris collection. So all hands on deck in that regard. Going fairly well, but there is a lot of tonnage on the ground of the storm debris. So appreciate everyone's efforts there. The other staff report I wanted to give, we had initially on the agenda an appeal of a Title 12 right-of-way violation with AEG, the fiber contractor. We're having continued conversations about that notice of violation and the appeal. They're providing some additional information on some of the violations that were identified in the notice of violation to dispute some of the specifics. And so we're working closely with them to go back and forth and figure out, exactly which of those violations they've got some further information on that we need to consider. They've been good conversations. They are very productive. You'll recall there was a stop work order previously this year. We're really working closely with their leadership team on all of the agreements that were part of that stop work order being lifted, making sure we're following all of those. With a project of this size and scope, it's going to have some issues, but we're really trying to get those to be minimized and work very closely with AEG. So we'll get you another update on that. The good news is they've got a good executive and leadership team that's being very responsive. And even in the last couple weeks where there have been additional violations, we've been in immediate communication, and they've been very responsive. So that's the good part. But yeah, so we'll keep the board updated between the work sessions and the regular meetings on where that all stands. But otherwise, just a big thank you to all the staff across the city that continues to work so hard. This is a busy, busy time of year for us, and you throw the big storm response on top of it in addition, and you got some people stretched pretty thin, and just want to say thanks to all those hardworking staff members out there. So that's all I've got for you.
Thanks. Just one follow-up question, and I apologize if I missed this. How has response been to the drop-off location at Cascades with people bringing their own debris?
I'd say we've only had a couple dozen residents really take advantage of that. We've got a lot more taking advantage of the pickup.
Yeah, of course.
So we do encourage anyone that would like to pick their piles up and bring them out to Cascades. That would be a lovely thing. But now we understand that it's the difficulty involved, and it's why we're doing what we're doing.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll move to the approval of claims. Are there any questions from the board on claims tonight? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move approval of the claims for July 16th, 2024 in the amount of $1,695,023.94.
Second, with a motion and a second, I will call the roll. Roach?
Aye.
Carone, aye. Motion passes. And with that, I call adjournment for tonight's meeting. Thank you very much.